The silence of a tomb is not merely the absence of sound, but the heavy, suffocating weight of an ending that feels final. Have you ever felt that your own life has been sealed behind a stone that no amount of human strength can roll away? If you are searching for a sign that your story is not yet finished, I invite you to subscribe to this channel and walk with me through the shadows of the past to find the light of your future. We often look at the greatest miracles of Scripture as moments of triumph, yet we rarely pause to consider the cost of being chosen. Consider Peter, the fisherman who walked on water and sank in doubt. He is the rock upon whom the church would be built, yet he remains the mirror in which we see our own failures reflected. But before we reach the shore of his restoration, we must step into the darkness of Bethany, where a man named Lazarus was summoned back from the silence of the grave. The conventional narrative focuses on the joy of the reunion, the tears of Mary, and the authority of Jesus. Yet, think for a moment about the man himself. Lazarus had experienced the transition from life to the void. He had tasted the absolute peace of the afterlife, a realm where there is no pain, no struggle, and no weight of sin. To be pulled back from that threshold, to be forced to breathe air that burns with the friction of earthly existence, to feel the ache of muscles that have withered in the dark, must have been a profound, quiet suffering. He was a man who had seen the other side, only to be reclaimed by a world of temporary trials. Why would God do this? Why would he demand that his friend leave the sanctuary of death to return to the battlefield of life? The mystery lies in the realization that God does not exist to make our comfort his primary objective. He exists to make our purpose manifest. Lazarus did not return to life to live for himself. He returned as a living testimony, a walking anchor of faith for those who trembled in the presence of the Roman Empire and the religious authorities. His life was no longer his own. It became a bridge between the mortal and the divine. And this is exactly where we find Peter. If Lazarus was the living miracle, Peter was the living lesson of human fragility. Think of the night of the fire. The air was thick with the smell of smoke and betrayal, and Peter stood there denying the very source of his strength. He was not just hiding, he was mourning the death of his own identity. He had believed he was unshakable, only to find that he was made of dust and fear. When Peter looked into the eyes of Jesus after the resurrection, he did not see judgment. He saw the same invitation that called Lazarus from the tomb. Peter had effectively died to his own ego in that courtyard. His pride had been crucified alongside his master. Many of us remain trapped in the garden of our own failures, weeping over the mistakes that we believe have disqualified us from serving God. We convince ourselves that our past is a permanent barrier. We look at our denial, our lack of faith, and our seasons of wandering, and we conclude that the stone is sealed. But remember the rhythm of the divine. God allows the failure so that he can dismantle the pride that prevents us from truly following him. Your suffering, no matter how intense, is the forge where your character is being tempered. Like Lazarus, you may feel as though you have been pulled back from a life you once knew, cast into a reality that feels difficult and demanding. Like Peter, you may feel that your previous failures have rendered you unworthy of the grace you seek. But the truth remains that God is not finished with you. He is not looking for perfection. He is looking for a vessel that understands its own emptiness. The mystery of the gospel is that it is exactly in the moments when we feel most broken, most fragile, and most useless that God begins his most significant work. Consider the persistence of the gardener. He prunes the branch not to destroy it, but to ensure that the fruit it bears is of higher quality. When you find yourself in a season of transition, when the path ahead is obscured by mist, do not mistake the silence of God for his absence. Silence is often the prelude to a revelation. It is in the quiet that we learn to listen to the whisper of the Spirit rather than the roar of our own anxieties. You are being prepared for a purpose that exceeds the boundaries of your current perspective. The lessons you are learning today in the valley of your disappointment are the very tools you will use to help others climb their own mountains tomorrow. What is the stone in your life? Is it a relationship that has withered? Is it a career that has stalled? Is it a sense of spiritual dryness that makes prayer feel like speaking to an empty sky? The power that rolled away the stone for Lazarus is the same power that is currently working under the surface of your existence. It is a quiet power. It does not always announce itself with trumpets. Sometimes it announces itself through the soft realization that you can try again. It shows up in the sudden grace to forgive someone who hurt you, or the unexpected strength to wake up and pursue your calling despite the heavy weight of yesterday. We often imagine that our spiritual growth is a staircase, a linear ascent toward greater wisdom and light. But it is more like the tides. It ebbs and flows. It recedes into the dark places to gather the strength to return to the shore. Do not be afraid of the ebb. Do not fear the periods where you feel you are not moving forward. You are gathering the depth required to sustain the height you are destined to reach. The mystery of faith is that we are most connected to God when we stop trying to control the outcome and start trusting the architect. Reflect on the life of Peter one more time. He went from a man who denied the truth in a moment of panic to a man who stood before the leaders of his time and testified with unwavering conviction. He did not achieve this through his own brilliance. He achieved it by accepting the restorative touch of the one who knew exactly how much he had failed and loved him anyway. Your mistakes are not the final chapter. They are simply the plot twist that makes the redemption story worth telling. God is currently weaving your struggles into a map that will lead others back to the path of peace. You are never too far gone to be called forth. You are never too broken to be utilized for a higher purpose. The very agony you are experiencing right now is the testimony you will be sharing in the future. It is the proof that God is not interested in who you were, but in who you are becoming. The narrative of your life is being written in the ink of divine grace. You are a work in progress, and the artist is incredibly patient. He knows the end from the beginning, and he knows that the masterpiece requires the inclusion of every shadow and every light. Stay anchored in the truth that your existence is an intentional act of love. You're not a coincidence in the machinery of the universe. You're a design participant in a divine drama. When the world tells you that your season has passed, listen instead to the voice that calls you by name, the voice that demands you rise and walk into the potential waiting for you. The journey is not meant to be easy. It is meant to be transformative. Embrace the change, trust the process, and never forget that the same hand that sustained the prophets is holding you steady today. If this message has touched a chord in your heart and helped you see your current struggle through a new lens, please share this video with someone who feels they are trapped behind their own stone. Leave a comment below and let us build a community of faith that stands together, supporting one another through every season of growth. Your story matters, your faith is growing, and your light is needed in this world. Subscribe now, walk in the grace of your restoration, and step forward into the purpose that has been waiting for you all along. You are loved, you are chosen, and you are far from finished.